What's up, gangsters? It's Saturday, and exactly one day later than the last time you saw me doing an update for my 70's build project. And it's been a productive day. I have done a bunch of weathering on the interior and of the little Kuba wagon, and I'm about to glue it together with the body shell. So I thought I would show you what I've done and tell you a little bit about what and why. All right, let's take a look. Okay, I have been hard at it, and I have to say this is my favorite part. I feel like everything I do up until this point is all about just getting here. All the building, construction, detailing, all of that is really just about making a canvas for weathering, because I think that honestly is what I enjoy the most. So here is where I'm at with it. And you can see, hopefully, that we have got some nice rust and filth going on in there. And that extends to the inside walls of the, I was about to say cockpit, I've been doing so many airplanes, but the interior structure of the little Kuba wagon. So here's what I have been doing. The first thing was after I put down a good coat of Stynel res, I followed that up with a nice solid coat of this MIG old rust to give me a base color for the rust. Now I've had various degrees of success with this next product, which is MIG's Scratches Effects. And the good news for me was that MIG did a video just yesterday where he showed exactly the process that he goes through with this stuff, and so that was helpful. I realized that I hadn't been working fast enough. I'd been giving this stuff like anywhere from half an hour to an hour to dry before I put the color coat on, and he works much faster. So I sprayed this stuff on in 3 coats, and I did it real lightly. But I basically sat here and watched the stuff dry between each coat. So right in here, right here, and then of course on the side walls of the body. So that didn't take very long at all. I live in a pretty dry climate, so the stuff was visibly dry pretty quickly. And as soon as the third coat of it was dry, I came in with some Tamiya XF22 that I had thinned about 50% with UMP thinners, and just very lightly sprayed my layers. So I do basically a dust layer, let it dry for a few minutes, do another one, do another, let it dry, and then repeat. And I did that took me probably 3 or 4 layers to get everything up to the color value that I wanted. And as soon as that stuff was visibly dry, I got a soft brush and some water, and I started working it. And it actually worked pretty good. But over the course of about a half an hour, I could see that I was running out of working time because it was becoming noticeably more difficult to get the stuff to get the chipping fluid to activate. So I definitely have learned a lesson there as far as how much time it takes and how much time you've got to work with the stuff. But man, when it works, it really is nice. The Scratches effects produces a more subtle degree of chipping. I don't know if you can really tell in there, but it's more subtle than the full strength chipping fluid. And for basic wear and tear and scuffing like that on like these floorboards and side panels, I just felt like that was really good. So I'm happy with that. The next thing I did was I ran a very thin wash of Winsor & Newton India ink all over everything to darken it up and start to create a bunch of tonal variation. And when you do that directly on acrylic paint, you get a lot of tide marks. And part of that's because I thin the stuff, again, with UMP thinner. And I thin it like, I don't know, it's probably like 20-to-1. It's super powerful stuff. And so it's you really have to dilute it a lot. And it flows around and does all kinds of weird and wonderful things. And you can see that there's a lot of interesting effects there from that. And I felt like that was good for the seats because those are canvas, and I'm trying my best to show them as being really worn and faded. And so I want a lot of color variation. So the next thing I did after that was I came in with some very diluted, this is IJN Sea Gray, I think, diluted to like 90%, and just started working that around on the seats, on all the top surfaces, up here on the top of the cushions here. Same thing on the back seat there, so that I would get a lightened effect on the parts of it that are getting the most sunlight. Then I came back and did the same thing with some very diluted MIG dark rust. And I worked that into places that are going to collect rainwater. So the tops of the ridges here on the corrugation, took 3 or 4 applications of that to kind of get it to the density that I wanted, because I wanted that to kind of stand out. I also did some black washes in the crevices, and to make sure that I kind of tried to keep that as much where I wanted it, I came with a quick dusting of Future in that area right there. And same thing on the front seats, because when you have a more glossy finish, that keeps the flow from spreading as much, if that makes sense. So anyway, that helps me get a little bit of a shadow in the crease there at the bottom of the seat. And then I just came back. Oh, I forgot. I used also some MIG airfield dust, and worked that into some areas that I felt like it would get concentrated, and put a little pigment fixer on that to get that nailed down. And then did a little bit of black paint in a few spots and added a decal from, I believe that's from a Tamiya ME262, right there on the instrument panel. Give that a little bit of character. And then I sprayed the whole thing with a little bit of acryl flat that I thinned 50-50 with UMP thinner to just basically integrate everything. And I'm ready to glue it together. The next thing I'll do as far as the weathering on this interior goes is I'm going to come back with some oils and some enamel washes and do some blending, because as much as I like the tonal variations that I've gotten from these acrylic washes, I don't want all of those tide marks everywhere. I think they work really good in some places, but I don't want that to be the entire theme of the way that looks. So I'm going to come back with some oils and some enamel washes and do some blending, and I think that hopefully will have the interior of the little Kuba wagon pretty shipshape. Okay, I hope all that made sense. Every time I try to talk about weathering, I feel like I end up just babbling, and that it's just this random mishmash of stuff. But that kind of reflects my actual weathering process. It's way more organized than that in my head when I'm doing it, and there's definitely a method to my madness. But whenever I talk about it, it just seems like a bunch of craziness. So anyway, I guess the only thing that matters is the results, and hopefully those come out good. All right, guys, there'll be another update probably after I start doing the weathering on the outside of this thing. All right, see ya.